So I asked people to comment last video about the length of these videos because I googled the ideal length of a YouTube video and it was like 8 minutes, and I was just thinking I don't want people to think they're too long and not watch the whole thing because you might miss something at the end. So I was really surprised and happy that everyone was saying they are about the right length, if not too short. So it takes a bit of pressure off me. I can talk a bit more and not cut out anything to try and make it short. So thanks for everyone who commented, and yeah, we're going to keep going. Nice easy job here. This is a direct unvented cylinder and it's a Megaflow. The reason it's direct is because it's heated at the tank with those two immersions on the side. So indirect means it's heated indirectly from another appliance, i.e. a boiler, but this one's directly heated at the tank here. So you'll notice there's no expansion vessel on the pipework. Now that's because on these Megaflows they've got an internal air gap. So the hot pipe there that comes out the top is like a dip tube. It dips into the tank, and then as this fills up with cold water, it pushes the air up. When you get to that dip tube, the air above it is now being squeezed together at the top. So when the water goes hot and cold, that air cushion takes up the expansion, and that's built into the top of that cylinder. So you can see there we've got hot and cold up to the bathroom above and to the kitchen sink, and then the two immersions in the side. Now a lot of people ask me when I tweeted this, why are you replacing the Megaflow? Because they've got 25-year warranty, but the price of these two immersion heaters it needs, plus the labour of doing it, came to not much less than swapping the whole thing. So also I couldn't turn this off, so we turned the water off in the street, but basically turn that off to kill the cold water, turn the power off to your immersions, and then you are ready to work on it. So we're just going to drain this down. Now a little tip on unvented cylinders, it can be hard to drain them down. So what you need to do is undo this nut there and just crack that nut to let some air in. Or you can, if you're replacing these, don't do this if you're not replacing them, but if you're replacing the PRVs, just crack them open. That'll let water out, but it'll also let air in when it drops to a certain level, and it'll just speed up the process of draining it. So while that's draining down, unpacking the new stuff. And the first box I open is the new expansion vessel, which needs a bracket to hold it to the wall, and there's no bracket in the box. So that's a good start. So just showing you now, cylinders out, cut the hot there at the top, cut the bolt, cut two colds at the bottom there, and the discharge pipe. And I'll just give the cupboard a tidy up and then ready to fit the new one. So this is the finished job. Now, nothing special, but the most interesting thing is, if you can see there, wherever I could pull a bend on a pipe, I have, rather than use a elbow. And the reason is because these unvented cylinders are designed to give you mains pressure hot water. You don't want to be sticking a load of elbows on and fittings and restricting the flow, because then you're defeating the object. So yeah, just wherever I can. I mean, it takes a bit of practice, but when you can bend a pipe, it looks a lot better. And then just showing off my soldering there. So yeah, that's it, finished job. Direct, unvented cylinder, in a cupboard. That's it. This is just a little tip I thought of while I was doing a gas certificate. So this is a main Eco Elite Combi, and it's very similar looking to a Baxi. Now, it doesn't matter what setting you've got it on, heating or hot water, but to put these boilers into service mode, there's a little trick. And what you need to do is, on the hot water control knob, from 0, give it 2 quick quarter turns, and that puts it into service mode. See, that's flashing out, the heating and hot water neons are flashing, and it's alternating between SF and the boiler temperature. Now the boiler's fired up, and you then use the central heating knob to turn it from maximum, so we're running at 100 there, all the way down to minimum, running at 0 there. So you can do your high and low checks on the boiler, and then when you've finished, to get back out of it, all you need to do is just touch the hot water control knob again, and that takes you out of service mode. And then just showing you exactly the same procedure. This time it's a Baxi Duotech. You can see it's not the same boiler, but they're very similar. So again, with the hot water, 2 quick quarter turns, and that puts us into service mode. And then again with the central heating control knob, we can change between maximum and minimum for doing our checks. And then just make sure you come out of it by turning the hot water control knob. That takes you out. So that was a useful thing to know. Just been called out to a job. Now what I get is a sheet from the letting agencies, and it will say go to such and such address, tenants' contact numbers, I'll ring in, book it in. Sometimes it'll be one thing like boiler out of order, no heating, no hot water, or I don't know, they need a new gas hob, please quote. This one this morning was shower temperature issue, wash and basin tap issue, and boiler leaking. So I've gone in, the boiler leaking was a MagnaClean filter, a mini one, Micro 2, and it hadn't been fitted right, so it's push fit, and there's a little red pin that locks it in place, and the pin wasn't in, so it was away from the wall, it was almost ready to pop off. So found the pin on the floor, pushed it back in, located the pin, that's job done easy. The tap, the spout is sort of corroded, so it's spraying water out all angles. Excuse me. So yeah, it's a weird looking tap, so I took a photo of it. I could try and get the spout, the sort of end cap piece filtered bit, but I'll probably never find out what tap it is, so I'll just tell them they need a new tap. So that's that. Now the shower is I'll show you a picture of it now. It's a horrible, concealed, ugly thing with no indication on it who makes it. So my job now is to find out if I can get a repair kit for it, so a new cartridge for the shower, but then I need to know the name and the model of the shower. So ordinarily I would say, yeah, bang a new shower in, we're not going to find it, but it's concealed, it's behind this plate, there's going to have to be tiling alterations. This guy's jumping up and down because he can't have a shower, he's just moved in. So that's my problem anyway, it's a headache for me. So I said to him, right, you got a common boiler, I'll just show you this, mate, because the issue is the shower is too hot, it won't mix with cold, and his boiler's set at like 60 degrees. So I said, look, when you have a shower, just before you go in, turn the temperature down to its lowest, which is 40 degrees, then you should be able to have a shower on fully hot comfortably without scalding yourself. I'm not doing that, it needs to be sorted. I said, no, you're gonna get a new shower, don't worry about that, but in the meantime, if you want to have a shower, you can do this little trick, but then all the water in the flat won't be hot enough. It's like, yeah, but what I'm saying is, just while you're going in the shower, just before you go in, turn it to 40, have a shower, jump out, turn it back up, just to get you by. Didn't want to know. Wants a new shower, needs to be sorted. Can't believe they've let him move in without having a working shower. You can't help some people, so I will endeavour to get his shower fixed as soon as possible. Next job is replace this room stat. Now we're not just going to stick another like for like on, we're actually going to upgrade them to a programmable room stat, and that's because the boiler is in the outbuilding and they're having to go out to the boiler to change the times. So using this TP1 from Danfoss, we can program the times and temperatures from inside the house rather than have to go out to the boiler every time. This is a load compensating stat, so if you were fitting this to a new boiler, it does comply with Boiler Plus. So the most interesting thing about this job is my kit box. So my electrician's kit box, I've got this Flux, and it's actually a box for one of their multi-tester things. But you get a nice little tray in it, which I've got my hand tools, cutters, knife, got a torque screwdriver there. Just my basic hand kit I would use for wiring boilers up really and doing any little electrical bits. Flute pen. Now I carry one of these on my person for checking voltage, but what I wanted to tell you about these is don't rely on them for much. They'll tell you if there's voltage there, but they won't tell you how much. When you want to know the level of voltage, you've got to use one of these voltage testers. This is my backup one. I got another one in my hand kit. And this will tell you exactly how much voltage you've got, AC or DC. Now, the reason is this job I did the other day, there was a fault on the boiler and the PCB had no display. And with my Flux pen, it was telling me there was voltage to the boiler, so I was thinking, oh, it must be the PCB. But then on further investigation, I went into the fuse spur and found out that it was only 67 volts, which meant it wasn't enough to bring the boiler on. So we ended up putting a new fuse spur on that job. But yeah, you can't rely on those Flux pens for much. Just going to whip this off now. Now, needless to say, I've got the power turned off at this point. If you're not confident with electrics, then get an electrician to look at it. Usually on a room start, there'll be a screw underneath or a couple of screws underneath. If you can't work out how to get one off, then usually there is a screw hiding behind the control knob. So that's the last place to look. So we've got two switching wires here. You'll notice the earth's been cut. Now, a lot of the time on thermostats, programmers, they are double insulated, so you don't need an earth, but it's always something to think about. Now, the other thing, under this box, you've got a nice open storage area. Now, I keep in here fuses. I've got some fast blow fuses for boilers, you can see labelled there, and then some 3 amps for fuse spares. I've got a VDE Weir screwdriver set, which is all interchangeable. It's got different insulated screwdriver heads, Torx, Phillips, slotted in a nice little pouch. It's quite new, that is. What else have I got? Multimeter. So before with the voltage tester, you can't do much other than test voltage and continuity. This one you can test resistance. You can test a lot of things with this, and these are good for boiler faults. So this, I really want a Flux one, but I don't use it that often, to be honest, so I can't justify the cost at the minute, but that's the dream. And then my favourite bit of kit is this ferrule clamping kit. I think I've showed this before in my videos, but I really love finishing my cable ends with a ferrule. So if you've not seen before, basically we tidy up the ends, and then you choose the correct size, and that just pushes on. So your cable goes inside the metal part, and then you've got the green sort of plastic sheath protecting the end of the cable. Then you just get your crimping tool, pop it on, and then give it a squeeze. And you can see there the teeth have sort of bit down and squeezed the metal tube around the cable, so that's grabbed onto the cable now, so you won't be able to get that off. And it just tidies up the ends, makes them really neat, and also makes them easier to work on putting them into the terminals there. Just looks like a more professional job. So if you've not seen one of these TP ones before, they're dead easy to use. The first thing you'll notice is they're quite long, different size to a normal room start. But if you can get around that, they are a really nice bit of kit. Dead simple to use. They're really easy to explain to tenants. And sometimes if you do a lot of rental work like I do, you'll end up talking through over the phone people how to program timers and stuff when the clocks change, or if a new tenant moves in. So they're dead simple. So you've got these images on the side. You see there the guy's out of the house, and then when you press that one, the guy jumps in the house. That's just telling you basically that you're in, so you want it on, or you're out, so you want it off. Then you've got the moon graphic, which is night mode, and then you've got that which is off, which is 5-degree frost protection. And you can go through all different cycles, change the temperatures, change the time of day, just by touching up and down. The last one to show you on my kit box is in the lid. So you've got this extra section in the top, which I keep in little offcuts of cable, which I use for fault finding on boilers, standard chocolate block connector blocks, and then these, which I love, these Wago block connectors. The one I use the most of is the double, but basically all 3 of those are linked in together. So whatever cable you put in one will be linked in the one next to it and the one next to it. So they're not separate. That's all 3 are linked together. So they're good for earths, neutrals, and then I use a lot of these doubles just for connecting in the back of sockets and things, back a few spurs. These ones, I think these are the original ones. They're quite big and bulky, so I don't tend to use those ones very often, but I've got a few, and they're the same principle, similar to what you get on like a central heating pump. You pull that tab back, it opens up inside, pop your cable in and then shut it, click shut, and that's your cable locked in. But yeah, they're really good to use a lot of them. And that's in the lid. But yeah, really nice little box. You can buy them separately. They're about 35 quid. Just look on eBay. You don't have to buy the test equipment that goes with it. But yeah, that's it. Nice and simple. Room stat swap. Now this is one of the most common call outs I get, and it's a noisy toilet, and they'll ring up and say it sounds like the house is going to fall down, or the plane customer. And what it is, it's the vibrating noise. When the ball valve reaches its limit to shut off, it starts vibrating the washer inside. So quite an easy job. Now I don't use these plastic isolation valves, but they are pretty handy when you find one, because you've seen there I've just turned the water off just like that. I would never fit one though because they're plastic. But so all we need to do is undo this, unscrew this, normally with a pair of grips because they get a bit stiff. So we've isolated the water, we're going to undo that, take that off, and just be careful because the pin on some of them is loose, so you see that it's still sat on top of the washer there. So we'll take that off. Now this washer is the issue. Now the issue is going to be either there's some muck behind it or this washer is at fault. You can normally gauge by looking at that one. Looks quite new. Sometimes they got a little tear in, sometimes they go really brittle and really stiff. But you'll notice on this one, when I hold it against the new one, the shape of it. So I'll give it a bit of a clean. There's no muck on there, but there is an issue. Also, you can check in there, that little hole, just check, there's sometimes a bit of muck in there. So what I like to do is crack open the water supply and just flush that out. So we're eliminating the chance of there being any muck or anything in there. So we'll have a look in the at a new one. I keep all different ones for all different styles because it's a common fault. But you'll notice here on this one, the new one is really quite flat, and the old one's got a bit more depth to it, so it's stretched, and that's the reason why it's causing this noise, because it's not quite right. So pop the new one in, and then we just put it all back together. And then pop the water back on, and then we can test it. So we should, when it gets to the level there should be no noise. You can check it just by forcing that on yourself to the level. And always, when you work on a toilet, when you're done, always try and set the level. You want 6 litre line there, which is always printed. Well, not always, but it should be printed on the inside of the system. And that's where you want to set your finished water level at. So we'll just let that fill up, and when it shuts off, we're just checking for any kind of noise, any kind of vibration. So I call that a good job. Hey guys, PB. So installer show, got myself one of the new fluctuators. If you didn't know, they've adapted the head. They've spoken to engineers and everyone said we don't want two, we don't want a 15 and 22. Want to be able to do both sizes with one tool. So this has got the brushes for 15 and 22 in the same head. And then the other thing I hear people say all the time is, can I put my own flux in it? Can I put Laco in it? So when you buy a refill or when you buy a fluctuator, it's got the Copalux Flux in it. So there's a refill there. But when you finish using that, what you end up with is an empty refill basically. So as an experiment now, I'm going to fill this one with Laco, fill this one with Powerflow, and use the new heads. I've got 2 here. And I'm going to use them for a few weeks and see how I get on, and I'll let you know if they're good with the other fluxes. That's the idea anyway. So I've got a tub of flux and a spoon. I'm just going to start filling my refill. Okay, so that's the Powerflow in that one and Laco in that one, the new 1522 combined head. So I'll use these over the next few weeks and I'll let you know if I have any issues with them. Powerflow went in dead easy. Laco was a bit more difficult because it's sort of thicker but just fill it in from the top and sort of tamp it down, and it levels off nicely. So they're both primed, ready to go, and I'll let you know what I think. Okay, this next job, we need a bucket, a foot pump and some tools. So I've been called out to this indirect unvented hot water cylinder, and the reason I've been called out is because they've been periodically getting discharge through the ton dish. It's not running at the minute, but it has been. So there's probably 4 or 5 things that can cause this to happen. Well, I will talk through a few of them. So this is your temperature pressure relief valve. So it looks just like a normal pressure relief valve, but it's actually got, it's sort of a wax probe that goes into the cylinder there, and it senses the temperature, and it will discharge over a certain temperature. You can see here 90 degrees 7 bar. So it's a safety device. If this gets too hot, it will let the extra pressure out through this pipe, through the ton dish. The way to tell if this is working correctly, if you're having discharge, is if check the temperature of this. If it's scalding hot over 90 degrees, you know this is doing its job, and for some reason this is overheating, whether it's the thermostat, the immersion, or even the boiler fault. The other way is if the water is hot but it's less than 90, you know that this is discharging below 90, so it's not doing its job correctly. So that's that. The other one you've got here is your normal pressure relief valve, and I think these ones are set 6 bar. If the water's cold, it's probably coming from here. Now there can be a few reasons you could have an issue with this. You could have some backflow, so say a mixer shower or something's pushing water the wrong way and the pressure's getting too high. But the main reason this will go is because of this. Now you can see how that's sat there. Straight away I can tell you this is absolutely full of water, and I can't budge it. I can't even lift it. That's full. If you don't know what one of these does, this is an expansion vessel, which we've got here. What have we got here? 300 litres. There's the badge. There's over 250 litres, I would guess, of water in there. When that gets hot, it expands. Now, the sizes of the pipes aren't big enough to take the expansion, so you have this vessel. It's either going to have a balloon inside it, or it's going to be half water, half air. Just to give you an idea what that looks like, so this is an IMI or IMI expansion vessel, and their internal balloon looks a bit like a hot water bottle really. So the water's inside that black bottle, and then the air's around the outside of it, so that's the air cushion that takes up whatever expands inside that bag. But they're all different. When this water expands, it pushes up into this air cushion here, takes up the expansion. That's full, so it's lost the air or it's broke. So what we need to do is drain the system down, disconnect this, and then pump it back up full of air, and hopefully it will hold its charge. If it doesn't hold its charge, that means this is Flux and we've got to swap it. So you can see there I've connected my foot pump onto the top of the vessel, and we've got 0 pressure. So now I've got to drain the water out of this, and then we'll try and pump it up and see what it holds. Oh, I tell you what guys, pumping one of these up from 0 to 3 bar is not easy, especially when your foot pump don't reach the floor because it's in the top of a cupboard. Oh man, and in this weather. Okay, so we've pumped this up now to 3 bar pressure. Normally one of these will have a data badge on, but on an unvented white expansion vessels are for potable water. When they're red, they'll be on your heating system. But if it's on unvented stainless steel hot water system, it's got to be the white one, and there will always be a data plate on there telling you what pressure to charge at. But general rule, 3 bar for these, 1.5 bar for the red ones for central heating. Also to note, this is 18 litres by the way, because that's a ARB 18. That's an 18 litre expansion vessel. If you've got a bigger cylinder with more water in, or a smaller one with less, you'll need less or more size depending on the water. So it's not just a guess, you actually work it out. And the good news is normally if you're buying an unvented cylinder, you'll get that with it, so you don't need to worry too much. But you can see there now the difference. Before I couldn't even budge it, now I can just lift it easily because this has been charged with air. So open it up.
See there, the water's back on. Job done. I'll just tell them to keep an eye on this, but we shouldn't get any more problems through that tundish.